They had figured that the tech was probably futuristic in some way, though before they could go any further, Danny's ghost sense goes off, and they see another ghost appear, this one with two faces, one of Skulker and the other of Technus, Danny questioning who they are, as they tell him that they were Skulk Tech 9.9, greatest hunter of the future ghost zone with Ghost Master of Technology as their operating system. Danny goes ghost with Obael and the others grabbing plumber weapons to fight Skulk Tech, though they'd made a bunch of claw arms appear and began fighting back. Blasting the arms to get the mechamorph flubber closer, he tried to fuse with it, but the tech was too futuristic for them to do anything. Cujo grabbed one of the arms and shook his head violently, making them swing around before hitting the ground with Sam telling the ghost dog good boy. Grabbing one of his arms, our half-ghost hero tells Cujo to come on as they both go intangible, forcing Skulk Tech to do the same. As they flew into the air and spun around, as they let go, making the future ghost pair fly off, crashing into the nasty burger again, with them flying upwards and Danny's powers shorting out on their own for some reason, and he began to fall with the ghost dog catching him, thanking his pal, and scratching their head. He then focused on changing back to ghost form, managing to do so, and then blasted Skulk Tech, who was flying towards them, making them crash downwards onto a lamppost, revealing another of the medallions like the one from Box Lunch. The robed figure from earlier on, saying that this one was an interesting case. He'd like to see how his boys handled themselves this go around, though Clockwork tells them patience. Sam, Danny, and Tucker investigate Skulk Tech, pulling the medallion off of them as they all disappear, leaving Obael and Cujo confused as to what just happened. Cutting to Skulk Tech and our little group, all being shot out of a portal of some kind, we see that they ended up in the ghost zone somehow, but it was part they'd never been to, sadly. Danny says that he doesn't like this as they see more medallions hanging on a wall, Sam telling him that he's gonna like this even less, as they see a window into the future marked Amity Park future 10 years. As we see Dark Danny blasting things, demanding to know where something was. They see him using some sort of ghost energy as he was shouting, with Danny recognizing it but saying that he hasn't managed to make it work yet, but he's tried. It had happened on accident a couple of times though. Tucker suggests trying to tap into Skulk Tech's system, but he was lifted up and thrown into the window portal thing, though he says he didn't do that. Then we hear someone say that he did it, and that they'd sent them back to their own time. Or should they say, forwards. For them, time is but a plaything. Sam asked where they were, and who exactly they were. Clockwork then introduced himself before saying that he was tasked with eliminating them, stopping time, and grabbing a scythe, though Tucker was unaffected because he had the medallion from earlier. Realizing what was up, he grabbed two off the wall, throwing one around Sam as he ran past, and grabbed the scythe from Clockwork and put the other medallion around Danny, making the two able to move freely again. Clockwork makes more versions of himself appear, and tells them nowhere to run, though Danny says not where. When, then grabs Sam and Tucker as they fly through the portal to the future, with the man in the lab coat saying that this would be interesting to see how they handle facing that future. The robed figure says that this will be fun, won't it? Let's see how his boys face the past, as the three of them each throw down a set of dice. The future looked bleak, with Danny saying that it felt like whatever went down there was his fault, as the future Valerie appears saying that he's got that right, and starts blasting at Danny with a new weapon. They try to reason with her, but she doesn't listen, blasting Danny backwards. I was about to take the shot when Tucker and Sam got in front of them, telling her to wait. This freaked out the future Valerie, as she says that they can't be alive. It's not possible. Tucker says if they're dead, then he's for sure skipping the CAT. Though future Valerie says that's the last time they were seen alive. Them, Mr. Lancer, Danny's family, then points her blaster at Danny, saying that it's all their fault. Before she could fire, a green energy shot across the ground, knocking her back, as we move up to see Dark Danny telling her that that was actually him, and that would be Danny as well, eventually. Dark Danny sees the medallions and sighs about Clockwork meddling again, with the future Valerie blasting Dan, and the two started fighting, with Danny charging his ghost ray, but his powers shorted out, keeping him from being able to do anything, with the future half-ghost taking down the future ghost hunter with ease before lifting her up, saying again that he wants what is rightfully his, and he wants it now. Managing to change back to ghost form, Danny then blasts Dark Danny in the back, making him drop Valerie as our hero then tried to grab her, phasing through the ground and accidentally into an underground bunker area. She'd questioned if he was from the past, and he says yes, and he wasn't going to turn into that monster before flying away. As we cut to Dark Danny saying that if he had any humanity left, their reunion would be touching, though he surrendered that 10 years ago. Phasing up from the ground, Danny sets off his future self's ghost sense as the two blasted at each other, knocking Danny backwards and his future self onto the ground. Our hero then tells his friends to run, but Dark Danny then uses his ghostly wail to knock down Fenton Works on top of them. Though we see they got the medallions off in time and escaped harm. Danny was about to do the same, but Dark Danny grabbed the medallion and phased it into Danny's body so that he couldn't leave. Dark Danny tells his past self that they were unable to reach the medallion with it phased inside of his body. Now he'll be paying a little visit to their past, throwing a tied up Danny through a portal that he'd created, sending him floating around in the ghost zone on his own. He then takes a time medallion that he'd picked up, having been left by Tucker and Sam, and used it to go to the past, changing into a human version of Danny, though through shape-shifting rather than simply changing back to human. Clockwork was messing with his staff as the observants appeared again, asking if Clockwork had completed the task, though he tells them that he's getting tired of them. They were sworn to not act, yet by asking him for help, they were in fact doing just that, though indirectly. Food for thought, before then showing them that everything was fine and the way it was supposed to be. Dark Danny found the Nasty Burger still standing and checked for something, though he then looked confused, saying he'd have to improvise and set all the gas cookware to spew without the pilot lights on, making it so that they were filling up with the cooking gas. Then says much better before going back to Fenton Works.